I was 23 years with National Geographic as a writer of a couple of dozen stories between about 1968 and 91 when they dumped me out. And that is when my life began. I began writing these books. For some reason, I can't tell you why a nice white Jewish boy would do this work. I wasn't called to it in any conscious sense, but I certainly was led into it and often pushed into it to go around. It was scary at first to walk up to a reservation, which is a lot of them are pretty tough places to go. It's usually some broken fence and some signs telling you not much because they all have bullet holes in them. I somehow feel while we're smudging, I should keep my mouth shut. It's very holy. What you learn from Indian folk is the importance of holiness, of sacredness. And was specifically taught that you ain't holy, Harvey, but you might just do a holy thing or two. And that's true of all of us. People aren't holy in that sense. No one can claim it. And every elder will tell you, hey, I'm just a guy. I was assigned to a story at Geographic back in 1983. It was to be a story of Indian medicine. Pretty typical National Geographic fare. But I shortly found out, after going out to many medicine, whatever that is, because medicine is power, spiritual power, only power for the good. And there was a kind of person sort of that was different than just a medicine man. And I don't know that any one word describes all of them. That's why we created this word WisdomKeepers at the time the book was first out in 1990. For the spiritual elders, a position we don't have pretty much in this country. Elders go to old age homes or sit around the kitchen table. They don't sit at the center of the thinking and the politics of what's going on, but in Indian country they do. And some elders are only 45 years old, but they're taking on the function of a spiritual elder, and that has a very wide meaning beyond medicine. I was never greatly interested, frankly, in medicine. It wasn't my bag. I'm a literary type, and I wanted to just hear what these people had to say on whatever subject they chose to speak about. And by no means are all the subjects spoken on here. I don't like to write about sorcery. There is a lot of it in Indian country. It was not what I was interested in. For some reason, they didn't take offense at me. I guess I didn't scare them. A lot of white people will get rejected on a res. And I'd like to read you some little parts of how it was. At first, how it was to myself and my colleague Steve Wall. And we wrote a book, I think it came out in 98, Travels in a Stone Canoe. You can still get them on, probably used on Amazon or somewhere. And I'll read to you from the preface. I will take my glasses off so I can see. You don't take the journey. The journey takes you. It's become sort of one of the philosophies of my professional life, if you can call it professional. I'm not making a lot of money at this. Nearly 20 years ago, and this was written in 98, 97, or 6, Nearly 20 years ago, two unlikely and unknowing white journalists, ourselves or those we thought ourselves to be, set out what we've come to see now as a spirit journey, a simultaneous exploration of outer and inner worlds. We thought at the time that we were going out on a magazine assignment after a good story, quote unquote, the supposed demise of the last generation of Native American spiritual elders, or wisdom keepers as we call them. But something happened to us along the way. We set out on the path of the wisdom keepers, and we've never quite gotten back. We find ourselves shuttling between worlds, not quite part of either. We've become unwitting and at times unwilling messengers or runners, as they call them, between those two worlds. We crossed an invisible boundary, passed through a kind of mystic membrane between what most people think of as North America and what others, many of whom you'll meet in these pages, think of as Great Turtle Island. Very important phrase in my life, Turtle Island. This last is as much a spiritual metaphor as it is a physical place. Not only the living continent that sustains our earthly existence, the primal Native American vision of the land as it once was and in a visionary sense still is, but also in an equally visionary sense. It is the very inward landscape of our own being, of our humanity. We've come to realize that North America and even in the United States of America, like Europe or Germany or Australia, are as much metaphors as Great Turtle Island. They exist in the minds of those who acknowledge them. When they cease to be acknowledged, they cease to exist. Witness the Soviet Union, their fallen metaphor. I hope we don't have the United States to learn. None of these metaphors in the ultimate analysis is any truer than the others. A metaphor's power is in its meaning, not in its truth. Not in some outside agency or external reality. The choice is ours. Great Turtle Island, like America, is inside of us. Our skin color is within us. The great challenge of our time is to find metaphors that include rather than exclude. This journey of ours then is a journey into metaphor, into meaning, into human subjectivity, into the belief systems of others and of ourselves. It's a journey into the very meaning of belief itself. What is belief? And yet, despite its inward aspects, this spirit journey is and has been absolutely real. And it's filled with rented cars and cheap motels and fast food restaurants, shopping malls, and interstate highways, and most significant to us, with many out-of-the-way dirt roads leading to the always open doors of those we call wisdom keepers, the spiritual elders of Native America. These wonderful men and women don't simply preserve the old wisdom, they live it. And yes, they share it, and they teach it. Not only with their words, but with their example, their presence, their lives always lived for others, never for themselves. So we are definitely not experts on Indians. I've only got 2 hours college. But we aren't scholars or anthropologists or historians. We're not even journalists anymore. Yet our journey, our spirit journey, is inexorably ongoing, and whenever we think it's finally over and done with, we somehow find ourselves swept back into it once again, despite ourselves, flung back onto the road, into the current, back on the path of the wisdom keepers, But don't mistake it for an easy path. Life, we've learned from the Wisdom Keepers, is not an entertainment. Life is a task, a holy task. There's a path you follow. There's a set of original instructions for following that path. In our journey, our life's work has been an unfolding of those instructions. It can often be hard to find and difficult to follow, at times even dangerous to your being, both physical and spiritual. And unless it's your path, it's pointless to follow it. But if it is your path, then alas, it's pointless to follow any other. We can't tell you where this path leads, perhaps only to itself. Maybe simply an endlessly looping circle of meaning that is self-evident only to those who travel along it. Indeed, that could be a definition for any belief system, since all belief systems may be seen as metaphorical constructions devised to explain the inexplicable, to give a meaning to the otherwise meaningless, to make humanly accessible the fathomless mystery, or as our Lakota friends call it, Wakanitanta, the great mysterious, the great holy, usually translated the Great Spirit. Actually has no nouns in it. So it's Wakan, more or less, means holy, Tanta means great. The great holy. Beautiful phrase. Take, for instance, the matter of signs, quote unquote. There are all these signs we're all seeing. I see signs every day. If a bird is, there's a red-tailed hawk who's just sitting on a telephone pole. I acknowledge its meaning, so we sit there and talk about it. Oh, wow. We know a lot about the whole history of red-tailed hawks. Birds are very important, very, very important. They're there to tell us things if we will acknowledge that they're there. You see 3 crows on a fence, something's going to happen. We've sought them out in their homes. We've lost our objectivity. We've been moved through the roots of our souls. And as for the matter of signs, each path, whatever your path, has its signs, its signposts. If you can't read them, or if you refuse to acknowledge them, they're certainly not going to help you find your way. Those signs are as much inside you as they are out there. Dismiss them with a skeptical sneer, and in the end, you're left with the ashes of your own disbelief. But open your eyes and your being to their possible meaning, to their soul-charging poetry, and you may suddenly find yourself what we call on the wind. This doesn't mean to believe in everything or anything, but simply to be open to the meaning and the poetry of things and events of your own life. You've learned to be open to the meanings and beliefs of others, not to copy them or steal them, but to learn from them, be moved within the depths of our being by them. Belief isn't necessary at all. Only respect is necessary. Respect opens you to the meanings of others and to your own meaning as well. Signs and, yes, even wonders can occasionally light your way. These signs are both inner and outer. We've learned to be open to them, but never to be expectant or demanding of these signs. Give me a sign. I've seen it happen, but it's not within my powers. In fact, I've eschewed all powers to even do this work. Powers, I couldn't handle it. For any and all such signs, we make no claims beyond the ordinary. Indeed, we've learned that the ordinary is at times the most visionary state of all. Now is the entry point, the gateway to what Wisdom Keeper Matthew King, whom I'll read some words shortly. Wisdom Keeper Matthew King called the great reality. But so goes another metaphor. Metaphors inside the metaphors, all these metaphors. Vast subject metaphor, you ever get into linguistics. Wow. The Wisdom Keepers taught us that wisdom isn't something you believe, it's something you do. And they taught us also that the instructions for doing it may not come to you until the last possible, least expected moment. Sometimes, often, just as you've abandoned all hope and stopped trying. That's a holy state. Failure is a holy state. Because it brings you beyond. God forbid you should be successful. Which I've lived to all my life. Among the Iroquois, or as they're known, the Haudenosaunee, who taught us so much, there's a story, a still living tradition, a sacred memory of a luminous prophet and deliverer called the Peacemaker. Don't please think of it as a legend or a myth. These are white man's words, any Indian will tell you, for the quaint beliefs of cultures other than his own. His own myths, white man calls history. So, you see, I always say there's white bashing here. Occasionally people walk right out about this time. So if you'd like to go, get out. Sometimes, well, quaint beliefs of cultures other than his own myths, the white man calls history, as a sign that the Creator had sent him, the Peacemaker, on a sacred mission. The Peacemaker traveled in a miraculous canoe made out of white granite. Carved from white granite, this magical vessel floated as light as a feather, carrying the Pacemaker wherever he was meant to go. This was all in New York State and Lower Canada. The stone canoe simply took him there. He didn't have to paddle. Nor do you. Because we all have our own stone canoes. We like to think that in our own small way, we've been privileged to travel these past few decades in a kind of symbolic stone canoe, a magical vessel that takes us wherever it is we're supposed to go. Obviously, tonight here. We're not supposed to steer it or paddle it. We're not supposed to plan a fixed itinerary. We're just supposed to go along, letting the unseen current take us wherever we're meant to go. We continually have to remind ourselves, don't try to pre-think or pre-envision it. Best ideas, the very best ideas, are the ones you find yourself doing without even thinking about them. You can't think your way to the truth. Truth, like beauty, isn't something you think. It's something you feel. Just as you can't think the wind, you can only feel it. And the same with the stone canoe. You can't think yourself aboard it. You can only feel it under you and realize that you've been riding it all along. When that happens, you're on the wind. You're riding in your own personal stone canoe. You're following the path of the Wisdom Keepers. And we make no pretense to being wise or in any way holier than thou. Believe me, we're not. Indeed, our very imperfection is what saved us time and time again. Without it, we'd never have discovered the path of the Wisdom Keepers even existed. From the Wisdom Keepers themselves, we learn that you don't have to be perfect. to do holy work. You don't even have to be holy. You can be a couple of contraries, a couple of shapeshifters like ourselves, and still lead a life worthy of being called human. I'm saying we've done it, but we aren't trying. That's the preface to this little book, Travels in a Stone Canoe, the return to the Wisdom Keepers, of which there may be a copy or two around. But you can get them on. I like to read, maybe talk a few words about this. This is my favorite book, my personal. Matthew King, Noble Red Man, Chief Noble Red Man of Lakota. I had interviewed Matthew King for a geographic story in 1983, February. It was the 10th anniversary of Wounded Knee confrontation. And I had gone to Wounded Knee, where there were people celebrating that occasion 10 years after it happened. Hopefully all know a little bit that Wounded Knee is a place where great crimes were committed against the Lakota people. Hundreds were killed, hundreds, they stopped counting after like 365. That time in Lakota history is almost universally known as the Reign of Terror. Elders were shot in their homes, they were beaten up, they were run off the roads. And anybody associated with AIM, same, and this was our own FBI that propelled all this to happening. In the midst of all the killing, the terrible, terrible fear of maybe 25,000 people living on the Pine Ridge Reservation. Pretty big place, but there were all these terrible people were afraid to leave their houses. The elders called the Aimsters. Please come. And by this time, it was 1975. The siege of Wounded Knee took place in 73. And one of the elders who called them, in addition to Frank Foolscrow, the high ceremonial elder, was the man called his interpreter, Matthew King, otherwise known as Noble Red Man. He'll explain to you why. And I just like to read some of his words, because I'm a word I won't read the introduction, all that stuff. But, we'd gone out to Pine Ridge and we met this old elder, Foolscrow, at a ceremony, and he gave a prayer, which we were told was in Lakota, but he was asking for a sign. We've just been talking about signs. To the Creator, give us a sign that you remember your Indian children. It's all described in that book, Wisdom Keepers. And he stopped the prayer, and actually a political speaker got up to start saying something, and then the place went silent. We looked up, and there, 500 feet or so above us, in a vast South Dakota sky, just a ring of hills far away, there was an eagle circling above our heads. Was that a miracle? An eagle flying above your heads. That's why Geographic didn't publish the story. They said, Harvey, you're going crazy. Somebody behind the rock let the eagle out. This guy didn't pray an eagle out of the sky. As I was putting it in my writing. And this is National Geographic. It's supposed to be objective. It goes through, how are we going to prove this? And eventually they killed the story. That became the book Wisdom Keepers. It was actually very fortunate because there'd be no such book. if they had printed the story, I would not have control of the copy. But since they didn't, they killed it, which was very painful at the time. We couldn't have been luckier, as so often happens, right? Something terrible happens, oh my God, geez, all that's wasted, and we were just beginning. The greatest favors have been bestowed on us. Just like Frank Fool's Crow, I was sort of miffed with him. We wanted to talk to him. I didn't want this Matthew King. Here the guy had just prayed an eagle out of the sky. I saw it. I don't think there was a guy behind it. This was way up there. And a man who can pray an eagle out of the sky, I have to say that's a pretty genuine miracle. Maybe it's not quite parting the Red Sea for Moses, but that's a heck of a feat. Bringing an eagle out of the sky with a prayer as a sign that God loves his Indian children, which he does. And he's also telling me that you're not going to talk to me. This is all being translated to me. You go see a guy in a little town called Kyle on the Pine Ridge Reservation, 2,000-3,000 people. And that was even worse for me in some ways, because I went up to him. The editor's back there. What does Fool's Crow have to say? He's sending to me this guy, Matthew King. So I was miffed with the old guy. He'd only shown me an authentic miracle and was sending me to speak probably the most important person I ever spoke to. I remember the first question I asked him. What should I call you? You know, I mean, I've got to write something here about you. How shall I refer to you? Matthew King, blah, blah, blah. What is it? He looked sort of puzzled and rubbed his mouth, you know. And he said, "You want my title?" He says, "I'll tell you my title. Here's my title. I'm an Indian. My title is I'm one of God's children." This was not good for me. One of the reasons we never do the story. I mean, they never publish. It's time Indians tell the world what we know about nature, about God. So I'm going to tell you what I know and who I am. And you better listen, because you got a lot to learn. I remember after giving him my spiel, he said, "Forget it, I know why you're here. Well, white man lost his instructions, that's why you're here, and now you want to come here and steal mine, right?" And I was thinking, holy wow. I mean, first I talked to Fool's Crow, and he gives me the brush off, and what are two miracles or something. I'm just a white guy, you know, we're pretty dumb. We've earned our reputation. And he said, I know why you're here. You come in, and we went into this little tiny, and the whole house plan couldn't be much bigger than this room. There was a bedroom back there with some old lady who was living. A little tiny kitchen, table with endless cups of very black coffee. That's where most of my conversations have taken place. Not in romantic places, but they're sitting at a kitchen table. That's where people talk. Smoking cigarettes. I don't think Matthew smoked. Usually people smoke. But Matthew was a very different kind of guy. He said, I'm a full-blood Indian. In the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota, my Indian name, in English, is Noble Red Man. That was my grandfather's name. White man mistranslated his name as King. Call me a chief of the Lakota. Actually, his title was usually translated as headman. That's about the highest title there, other than the great ceremonial chief headman. Those are the kinds of people think of. Call call me a chief of the Lakota. I'm a speaker for the chiefs. I say what I have to say. It's my duty. If I don't say it, who is going to say it for me? I'm a prophet. I consider myself a prophet of the Indian people. I can see what's coming. I prophesy what's going to happen. I walk with the Great Spirit, with God. And again, when he says God, he knows he's talking to a white guy. He wouldn't use those words if he was talking to a code guy. But he was a very religious man in both traditions. I walk with the Great Spirit, with God. Wakantanka, that's what we call him in Lakota. I talk to him, and the Great Spirit guides me in my life. Sometimes he comes to me and he tells me exactly what to say. Other times I just speak for myself, for Matthew King. You can call Wakantanka by any name you like. In English, I call him God or the Great Spirit. He's the great mystery, great mysterious. That's what Wakantanka really means, the great mysterious. No noun. You can't define him. He's not actually a he or a she or a him or a her. We have to use those kinds of words. But you just can't say it. You can't call God an it. So call Wakantanka whenever you want, whatever you want. But just be sure to call him, because he wants to talk to you. And again, this was the time where he says, what do you want to talk about? And I blurted out wisdom. And he said, wisdom? About this time, I was knocked out by the things this guy was saying. Thank God I had him on a tape recorder. And because this was not ceremony, it was the kitchen table. Every page is a treasure. When I go up on the hill to pray, I don't just talk to God. I try to get the talking over quick. Mostly I'm listening. Listening to God. That's praying too. You've got to listen. God's talking to you right now. He's telling you all the words you've got to speak and all the things you've got to do in this life. And if you don't listen, you don't hear what God's saying. And then you don't know what God wants you to say or do. So that's how we pray to God. We listen. I always like this one particularly. We live by visions. We live by dreams. We live by miracles. Miracles come to us in our everyday lives, in our ceremonies, in our prayers. Every day is a miracle to us. Many times I've seen the eagle come out of the empty sky and circle over our heads when we blow the eagle bone whistle in ceremony. The eagle is the witness of the Great Spirit. The eagle is the eyes of God. And once I had an eagle dream. I left my bed and flew with the eagle out below the sun and above the clouds. And after we circled around up there 10 times, I flew back down to my bed, and the eagle, he came down with me. He flew around my head 4 more times. And then he flew away. And now whenever the eagle joins us in our ceremony, I always say a friendly hello to him. And he remembers me, and I remember him. We keep an eye on each other. The eagle's my symbol. In our way, you always have a symbol. That's your power. It reminds you of God. It reminds you to do good. And some missionaries came to one of our ceremonies one day. They watched us while we danced. I told them, everybody, look up in the sky. Look up there. The eagles come to join us. Sure enough, the eagle came over and flew right down into our ceremony. And he stood there on 1 foot, with one leg up in the air. And he carried 2 feathers in his claw. And he put them on his head like a crown. And then he started dancing right on that, and we danced with him. We all cried to see the eagle dance. I've sat down with the buffalo. They don't bother me. They know I'm an Indian. They nurse their calves beside me and let me be. Any white man try that, Harvey. And the only miracle would be if he got out of there alive. Going up on the mountain, praying for vision, and talked to Crazy Horse. I've talked to Red Cloud and to Noble Red Man. They teach me things the living have forgot, things the white man can never know or understand. You see, this guy talked scripture. It was hard, in a way. Then I went back to the office and I killed all this. See it back. They're crazy. Eagles coming down and dancing. If you've ever been in an Indian ceremony and you see the eagle dancer come out, you might want to interpret it that way. As they do, they become whirling, dervishing in front of you. White man came to this country and forgot his original instructions. We Indians have never forgotten our instructions. God gives his instructions to every creature. According to his plan for the world, he gave his instructions to all the things of nature, the pine tree, the birch tree. They still follow their instructions and do their duty in God's world. Flowers, even the littlest flower, they bloom and they pass away according to his instructions. The birds, even the littlest bird, they live and they fly and they sing according to the Creator's instructions. Should human beings be any different? Our instructions are very simple. To respect the earth, to respect each other, to respect life itself. That's our first commandment. That's the first line of our gospel. Respect is our law. Respect for God's creation, for all the living beings of this earth, for our mother, the earth herself. We can't harm the earth or the water the way you do, because we respect their place in the world. Goodness is the natural state of this world. That was a funny statement coming from the Indian. It's got nothing but badness all over. The world is good. Even when it seems evil, it's good. There's only goodness in God. And that same goodness is in us all. You can feel it yourself, right, Harvey? You know when you feel good? You know when you feel good? It says, respect that goodness. Watch that goodness. You are God's child too. You're good. You are sacred. Respect yourself. Respect the goodness in yourself. And then, with his hand, he says, then you reach inside yourself and find that goodness and then put that goodness into the world. That's everybody's instructions. Quite a thought. God made you so you feel good when you do right. Watch when you feel good. Follow that good feeling. The good feeling comes from God. When you feel good, God feels good too. God and you both feel good together. Everyone is sacred. You're sacred. I'm sacred. Every time you blink your eye, or I blink my eye, God blinks his eye. God sees through your eyes. God sees through my eyes. We are sacred. I'll go through it a few more times, and it goes on in this one. I mean, for a reading, this will take 4 hours to read. I like this one. God made everything so simple. Our lives are very simple. We do what we please. The only law we obey is the natural law, God's law. We abide only by that. We don't need your church. We have the Black Hills for our church. We don't need your Bible. We have the wind and the rain and the stars for our Bible. The world is an open Bible for us, and we've studied it for millions of years. We learn that God rules the universe, and that everything God made is living. Everything. Even the rocks are alive. And when we use them in our sweat ceremony, we talk to them. And when we pour the water over the glowing rocks, they talk back to us. White man gets everything wrong. He says we're warlike and we're peaceful. See, he calls this headdressing and taking out this gorgeous big yellow fur and all these feathers out and showing us he can put it on his head. Sure, we used it in war, but most of the time it was for ceremony, not war. Headdresses aren't for war. Each feather stands for a good deed. See, he never had his eyes glittered with pride. I had 36 in mine. It's not about war. It's about who we are. When we sing songs, of course, the white man, he calls them war songs, right? But they're not war songs. They're prayers to God. We have drums, so what does the white man call them? War drums. But they're not for war, they're for talking to God. There's no such thing as a war drum. White man sees how our warriors paint their faces, so of course it's war paint, right? But it's not war paint, and it's not for war. It's to make it so God can see our faces clearly when we have to die. One section here is called For the White Man. No people on earth ever enjoyed a freedom like we Indians enjoyed before the white man came to our country. Everything was free. We were free. So were the animals, and the birds, and the rivers, the mountains, the whole wonderful land from end to end, all free, all pure, all happy. This was the freest and purest and happiest place in the whole universe. We were the great spirits, forest children, living free according to his law. And then Columbus and his gang hit this country by accident. I can tell you we're sorry they did. Our instructions didn't tell us what to do about the white man. We welcomed him when he came here. We fed him. We took care of him. We believed God had sent him here to help us. God gave white man powers we never saw before. Material power. He was supposed to share those powers with us in the service of the spiritual power. He was supposed to connect the spiritual and the material. That's the point of being human. But he didn't do it. Instead, white man used his material powers to steal our land, steal our freedom, to steal our culture. Now our great chieftains are gone. The buffalo, except for a tiny few, are gone. The country we loved is lost. They built roads over the fading trails where we once walked. Our weapons, our bows and arrows, our tomahawks are in the museums. They even sell our bones for souvenirs. And maybe if we didn't remember how it once was, it wouldn't be so bad for us. We could just become everyone else, right? Only one thing's sadder than remembering you once were free. That's forgetting you once were free. And that would be the saddest thing of all, and that's one thing we Indians will never do. Section here, a message to the white man. God put us both on this earth, the red man and the white man. I don't know why. There's a reason. Must be. I've looked for it all my life. And I'm sorry to say I have not found it. I can't understand why He would send you here to destroy his own creation. But God's always a mystery. I try to work with the mystery, even when I don't understand it. We're both God's children. When white man came here, he said he was our father. But he wasn't. Only God was our father. And the earth is our mother. And we Indians, we have the proof of that. Because our skin is the color of Mother Earth. God meant us to live in peace, the white man, the red man. He has a purpose for each of us. He doesn't want one of us to kill the other all the time. And it's been a long war between our two peoples for 500 years. We want it to end. Maybe white man thinks he's already won. But you can't win when you go against God, against nature. All you win is God's wrath and God's judgment. God will always be the winner. White man has his own way. He brought that way here from across the ocean. He believes in it, though nothing good has ever come from it that I can see. We don't believe in it. It's not our way. You've got your Holy Bible. And we have our sacred pipe. Maybe God wants there to be both a Bible and a pipe. We're not trying to convert you. And we don't want you to try to convert us. We only want our two peoples to live together in peace and mutual respect, each of us serving God in our own way. Isn't that acceptable to the white man? We don't condemn all white people. There are many, many good white people. They lead a good life. They don't do evil to others. They live with God. And we don't hate anybody. We have no hatred in our hearts, and we hope that there's none in yours. We open our hearts and our arms to you. But to tell you the truth, I don't know if we can ever really come together, but I'm a dreamer, and I'll tell you my dream. Someday, red man and white man will sit down with all the races of humankind, and we'll solve our problems together. We'll all follow God's law. You do it your way. We'll do it ours. We'll even pray together. Someday we'll have ceremonies together. And the eagle will come down and join us. He'll dance with us, and you'll learn what it's like to dance with the eagle. It's true, we can all dance with the eagle. We can all fly with the eagle. God is like that, I know. That's coming close, maybe. But I'll be gone soon. So I probably won't see it. But maybe my grandchildren or their grandchildren will see it. Yes, can happen. We'll all dance together with God. Tell him, noble red man. Oh. Thank you. Leonard Peltier was an Indian activist who was convicted of the murder of 2 FBI agents back in 1975. And everyone knows he didn't do it. Every bit of evidence against him is fake and phony, and it's all available if you care to read that deeply into it. Nothing but lies. The FBI, there had been a previous trial because Leonard had run away to Canada, stayed out of the way for a while. And there's a previous trial in Iowa, Cedar Rapids, I believe, in which Bob Robidoux and what's the other guy's name? two guys that were charged were found innocent. Whoever heard of this in the U.S. court? Anything innocent? But sure enough, they were found innocent. And the FBI was very, very distraught. They say the FBI guys were weeping when they heard the verdict. Innocent? How can this innocent man be framed being innocent? So Leonard is, this case, 33 years, 34, he was just 64. He's been in there since he was, they changed prisons here and there, but he was 31 when it started. I try to think of my life at 31 to 64, gone. And they don't want to let him out now. We thought that Clinton was going to leave him out in the year 2001. He waited to the last moment. Leonard's grandson who cleaned everything out of his bedroom so Leonard would have a place to go, and his committee bought a suit for him to wear, and we're waiting and waiting for Clinton just to say something he'd always promised to, and he waited 8 years. And he knew damn well this guy was innocent. There's no evidence that he shot him, despite what was in court at that time. But they did convict him, and he's still there. And if there's any way any of you can find some interest in his fight and let anybody know about it, you know what? Did you remember the? You have to go to who, it keeps changing, but right now it's whoisleonardpeltier.info. Whoisleonardpeltier.info. And that's Leonard's own site run by his, I think his niece, his grandniece, or something like that. People are afraid of the FBI. I don't know what they would do. They will certainly fight Leonard's release, but maybe Obama will just say, let the truth suckers go. Been in there 33 years. They all know he's innocent. So fewer and fewer and fewer people, despite my efforts and the efforts of quite a few others, seem to know about him. You can ask 120-year-old kids who Leonard Peltier is, and just going to give 99